Call the meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to the September 5th, 2023 Post Falls City Council meeting. Shannon, please note that all council members are present. We do have one public hearing tonight on the allocation of reserve property taxes. If anyone wishes to testify, there's forms on the podium in the back. Fill it out, turn it in to Shannon, we'll let you testify. Are there any amendments to the agenda?
There are none tonight, sir.
Are there any declarations of conflict? You know what I don't see here? I don't see announcements.
We've adjusted the agenda slightly
you.
to try to get the order right for some of the items on the agenda tonight. We should have given you a warning, sorry
I was
about
going to say,
that.
I read through it, but I didn't notice. I noticed the other part of it, but I was just ready to read my announcements. Okay, we'll get to that later. Shannon, would you please present, or I'm sorry, Jason, would you please present the consent calendar?
I will, yes. Item A is minutes from the August 15th, 2023 council meeting. Item B are the minutes from the August 17th, 2023 council meeting. Item C is payables from August 8th, 2023 to August 28th, 2023. Item D is the cemetery fence construction. Item E is the purchase of the ice slicer by the streets department. Item F is the Haycrop Commercial Park Subdivision Master Plan Agreement, file number SUBD-23-2. Item G is the Millsap Landing Subdivision Master Development Agreement, file number SUB-22-16. Item H is the request to dispose of damaged or worn asset items by the Parks and Recreation Division. Item I is a request to dispose of electric gate system by the Street Division. Item J is the June cash and investments. Item K is the Quailview Townhome Master Development Agreement, file number SUBD-22-15. Item L is the agreement to provide 911 and dispatch services to the city of Rathdrum. Item M is the mutual aid agreement between the Rathdrum Police Department and the Post Falls Police Department. Item N is the right-of-way dedication for McReynolds Drive. Item O is the Deputy City Administrator Employment Contract. And item P is the Legal Services Director Employment Contract.
Any questions on consent?
I'd move for approval of the consent calendar as presented.
Second.
Motion second, further discussion. Roll call, please.
Shove,
Aye.
Borders,
Aye.
Thorson,
Aye.
Walker,
Aye.
Malloy,
Aye.
Ziegler,
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is public hearings, and tonight, as I mentioned, we have one fiscal year 2024 property tax reserved to Foregone. That'll open the public hearing.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. At the last council meeting, we talked about the rolling over of the unused foregone from the property tax, the new construction, annexation, and also the urban renewal monies. Of the 3% that the city was allowed to take was $414,926. And the amount that I am proposing to roll over into foregone is $116,497. The remainder of that is to make the city whole of the amount that we're unable to take because of the legislation that was passed. So that is my proposal to council.
Questions of Jason? Shannon, anyone wishing to testify?
we have none.
I'll close the public hearing. Council, how would you like to act?
Move to approve the fiscal year 2024 property tax reserve to foregone.
Second.
Motion second, further discussion. Roll call, please.
Borders,
Aye.
Thorson,
Aye.
Walker,
Aye.
Malloy,
Aye.
Ziegler,
Aye.
Shove,
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda tonight is unfinished business, returning ordinances and resolutions. We have a pass-along. First is a resolution.
A passel. And on these resolutions, I just make a motion, don't I? I move to approve resolution fiscal year 2024 fee resolution, and to direct the clerk to assign the appropriate number and that it be published by summary only.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? Shannon, did you have a comment?
Was that
Did you have a comment? I thought it looked like you did. Okay. Roll call, please.
Walker?
Aye.
Malloy?
Aye.
Ziegler?
Aye.
Borders?
Aye.
Shove?
Aye.
Thorson?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next resolution.
I move to approve Resolution FY 2024 Reserve Foregone Property Taxes and to direct the clerk to assign the appropriate number and that it be published by summary only.
Second.
Motion second. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Walker?
Aye.
Malloy?
Aye.
Ziegler?
Aye.
Borders?
Aye.
Shove?
Aye.
Thorson?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next resolution, please.
I move to approve Resolution Parkway Fire Disaster Declaration and to direct the clerk to assign the appropriate number.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion. Roll call.
Malloy?
Aye.
Ziegler?
Aye.
Borders?
Aye.
Shove?
Aye.
Thorson?
Aye.
Walker?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. And then we have a couple ordinances.
Does he talk about them?
Not yet. You got to make the motion.
I would make the motion and then he'll talk about it? Okay. I move to place the ordinance fiscal year 2024 budget on its first and only reading by title only while under suspension of the rules.
Second.
Motion second. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Ziegler?
Aye.
Borders?
Aye.
Shove?
Aye.
Thorson?
Aye.
Walker?
Aye.
Malloy?
Aye.
Motion passes. Mr. Wilson.
An ordinance entitled the Annual Appropriation Ordinance for fiscal year beginning October 1, 2023, appropriating the sum of $148,455,167 to defray the expenses and liabilities of the city of Post Falls for said fiscal year, authorizing a levy of a sufficient tax upon the taxable property and specifying the objects and purposes for which said appropriations are made.
I move to approve the ordinance fiscal year 2024 budget and to direct the clerk to assign the appropriate number and that it be published by summary only.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion. We okay?
Yes, we're good.
Roll call, please.
Ziegler?
Aye.
Borders?
Aye.
Shove?
Aye.
Thorson?
Aye.
Walker?
Aye.
Malloy?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next ordinance.
I move to place the ordinance creating position of Deputy City Administrator on its first and only reading by title only while under suspension of the rules.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion. Roll call.
Borders?
Aye.
Shove?
Aye.
Thorson?
Aye.
Walker?
Aye.
Malloy?
Aye.
Ziegler?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
An ordinance of the City of Post Falls, Kootenai County, a municipal corporation of the state of Idaho, amending Post Falls Municipal Code Section 2.08.010 to add the position of Deputy City Administrator, providing that the remaining sections of Post Falls City Code shall remain in effect, providing for severability, providing for this ordinance to be in full force and effect from and after its passage, approval, and publication according to law.
I move to approve the ordinance creating a position of City Deputy Administrator and to direct the clerk to assign the appropriate number and that it be published by summary only.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion. Roll call, please.
Borders?
Aye.
Shove?
Aye.
Thorson?
Aye.
Walker?
Aye.
Malloy?
Aye.
Ziegler?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next item up is Fisher Lift Station Purchase and Sale Agreement. Craig.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Craig Bornpool, Utilities Manager for the City of Post Falls. And I'm here to talk to you tonight about a proposed purchase and sale agreement for replacement of the Fisher Lift Station. As a bit of reminder background, Fisher Lift Station is in the northwest portion of Post Falls. It was constructed in 2002 as one of our smaller lift stations, being only having 2 pumps, not having any backup power. And when evaluated in the 2019 master plan, it was slated for replacement with a regional lift station having 3 or more pumps encompassing flows from a much larger basin. And that proposal was intended to be completed within the 5-year plan of that 2019 master plan. So the existing Fisher lift station, you can kind of see it highlighted in yellow, the yellow marker there, is on a smaller parcel, and it doesn't allow enough space to do the replacement and rebuild of the station on that on that parcel. So we went looking for alternative areas where we may be able to build the larger regional lift station in the area. Doesn't take too long to see some area just to the north of Fisher Avenue. And so started to engage a couple different opportunities for where we might be able to place a new regional lift station north of Fisher. And so in engaging with property owners, one area was identified, negotiated with them, and that is what led to this purchase and sale agreement. And there's several attractive items in the purchase and sale agreement for the city, both now and into the future, which I'll highlight. So the purchase and sale agreement provides for adequate space for the regional lift station that we need right now. It has future right-of-ways and easement setbacks built into it. So we're going to be purchasing maybe a little bit larger area than is needed, but that retains that frontage space that will be needed for rights-of-way and easements in the future as the area develops. And then we've also included in there some additional space for future expansion or replacement of this lift station, so we don't have to go through the same process when this lift station has reached its end of useful life and we have to go looking somewhere else. We've incorporated some of that land in this one already. So all those things considered and looking at all the options that were vetted, the proposal represents our lowest cost per square foot for land that we're looking at. And as sort of a graphic, it's laid out on this table here, or this figure here. So the lift station that we will be building it will be within this yellow unhatched area. The hatched areas are the right-of-way, future right-of-way and easement. Since we'll be kind of encumbering that land, we need to include it in this purchase now. And then this 75 by 75, about right here, is land that we could use when this future lift station needs to be replaced in that 20, 30-year horizon. So we don't have to go looking for additional land after that. Knowing if this is the location, it would allow us to design it so that we could take advantage of this additional land that we would be using in the future. So the financials of this purchase and sale agreement, the total purchase price negotiated is $181,000. Looking for a contingency of $10,000 to cover some of the closing costs and anything else that might come up in the interim. So the total request this evening is $191,000. This would be funded. We have a couple different budgets to pull from. We do have a land acquisition budget that we maintain, so when we need to go looking for land, we have some funding available. That wouldn't cover this full purchase price, but we also have our Fisher Lift Station upgrade project that has money in it available for land purchase. So those would be the two budget areas that we'd be pulling from for this purchase. Next step, if this is approved and we move forward and finalize the purchase, that will inform our engineering design. We need to know where it's going before we can finish the design. Our engineers are currently working on some of the preliminary engineering of this, so we'll be able to jump right into putting ink to paper on the actual design. So that taking place fall and winter of this year. Looking for a bid award of winter or spring of next year, and hopefully summer of next year start construction on the new regional lift station.
Any questions, Craig?
Stand for questions.
Always, I never really liked being a land baron as far as city. However, I think in a situation like this where we know it needs to be replaced now, price appears to be a fairly decent price, and when you look at the opportunities that it will provide us in the future, I think it makes a lot of sense. So, it's just my thoughts.
Yep.
I'd entertain a motion.
I would move to approve the Fisher Lift Station purchase and sale agreement.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion. Roll call, please.
Shove,
Aye.
Walker,
Aye.
Thorson,
Aye.
Malloy,
Aye.
Ziegler,
Aye.
Borders.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Thanks, Craig. The next one, bear with me while I read this.
Oh, look.
The next item on the agenda is the Headworks, Influent, Forcemain Feasibility Analysis Additional Service Agreement with JUB Engineers.
Back to back. Once again, Mayor, members of the council, Craig Bornpool, Utilities Manager, and the Projects Division Manager, Andrew Arbini, and I are going to present on this together. I'm going to kick it off with kind of the specific ask, and then I'm sure you're going to have some questions on the area that we're working, and Andrew Arbini is going to fill in those. So when I get to the end of mine, Andrew's ready to go. So speaking to you tonight about a Southeast Way corridor and a utility pipeline study. So really we're talking about the area right in front of the water reclamation facility and all the infrastructure that is in or under the road and the frontage right there, and trying to evaluate that from a long-term planning perspective. So a bit of background, as you're aware, we're currently doing a master plan for the water reclamation facility. We have already completed a master plan for the collection system. And this area is really kind of where those two come together. It's the last step in the collection system, the first step in the water reclamation facility. And where we have that open contract, we're learning that some decisions we make may impact capital planning. And so this addendum is an addendum to the facility plan contract that's open right now with JUB to complete this additional work. Andrew's going to talk about Southeast Way rehabilitation and the future Andrew's going to talk about Southeast Way rehabilitation and the future capital project there. So from a satellite perspective, we'll say, the area under construction kind of in the middle is the larger water reclamation facility. And at the top, this is Southeast Way fronting that. If we peel back the surface and we look at what's underneath, we can start to see a network of pipes, lift stations, all within that Southeast Way area. And so anytime we're talking about work within Southeast, we want to make sure that if there's utility work that needs to be completed, we're getting in there, getting that done before the road work is done. So we don't want to open up and have to do things multiple times. So Andrew's going to talk about Southeast Way and rehabilitation, and then the reason I'm in front of you is if that work is going to be done and we're looking at this pipe network, we want to evaluate several items to make sure we know that long-term plan so we get everything in the road where we need it to be, when we need it there, so we don't have to do it multiple times. So Southeast Way pipeline study, as I said, last step, first step is kind of this is the intersection between our collection system and our water reclamation facility. The building on the graphic is our Headworks. So all of our flows are coming into that Headworks, that front Southeast Way right there. And trying to figure out with flows coming from the west, coming from the east, getting in there. There's several ways we can do that. The last couple master plans that we've done have each shown a different way. A network of smaller pipes coming in or fewer larger pipes coming in. And with those questions kind of somewhat out there, we want to confirm what the right way to do this is. As I said, as part of the water reclamation facility master plan, some of those changes could have cost impacts, and we want to make sure we're including that in our capital improvement plan so we have the funds available whenever that work needs to be done. Another component of this is, as you know, we have long-term plans to have reuse out on the prairie. One thing we don't know yet is how we're going to run that pipe out to the prairie. So the first step coming out of the water reclamation facility, we want to confirm that as well. Even as basic as, are we going to go east or west when we get out of there? So this study will confirm our reuse pipeline direction for that exiting reuse pipe. So this addendum to the master plan, we're looking at $29,800, and that would be funded through the facility plan budget to take a look at, like I said, the piping network in front and make sure we're designing, we know what we need to design right now. I'll hand it over to Andrew to talk to, or I'll stand for any questions on that portion, as that's basically the dollars ask, and then I'll hand it over to Andrew to talk about the larger Southeast rehabilitation.
Any questions, Craig, at this point? Thanks, Craig. Andrew.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Craig did such a great job explaining all of that. These slides will go very quickly. So to talk a little bit on the Southeast Way rehabilitation project, as Craig mentioned, this is a capital project with the Streets Division, recognizing that we have a need to address the pavement surface along Southeast Way directly north of the water reclamation facility. So the general limits here on the screen, we're looking at McGuire Road to Chase Road. That's our specific area of study. And currently where we're at in the process, we're reaching out to some consultants, particularly a geotech review of the pavement to determine what we need to do. Is it as simple as grinding out the asphalt and repaving, or is it more in depth where we are rebuilding the entire roadway, which at that point, a utility corridor pipeline analysis will help play into that. If we are doing extensive utility work, that would be the opportunity to do so. So next steps for the rehabilitation project, working with a geotech to analyze the pavement surface, and then that would be folded into a design contract we envision with a design engineer. And then, as I mentioned, the scope of pavement rehabilitation will really determine how much the utility work we'll be doing. So next steps and what we envision a timeline for this capital project, looking at a scope this fall, likely bringing something to council here before the holidays. Following that, we would work through the design, looking to have that initial start of it in the spring, and then ultimately construction in spring of 2025. So that's our general time frame, subject to change, but we would continue to bring updates and update on the project as we progress. So with that, I will wrap up the presentation.
Questions?
Myself and Craig will stand for any questions.
Andrew at this point.
I wish I had a really hard question for you, Andrew. I'm so sorry I don't.
So you need a motion for us to proceed with this?
I would move to approve the Headworks Influent Forcemain feasibility analysis additional services agreement with JUB Engineers.
Second.
Motion second, further discussion. Roll call, please.
Walker.
Aye.
Thorson.
Aye.
Malloy.
Aye.
Ziegler.
Aye.
Borders.
Aye.
Shove.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Next item up tonight is new business. We have none, followed by ceremonies, announcements, appointments, presentations. We do have a couple announcements. The October 3rd City Council meeting has been canceled. There'll be no City Council meeting on October 3rd. And the majority of the community forest is back open to the public after being closed due to the Parkway fire that occurred on August 4th. It remains our top priority to keep the community safe as we reopen the forest. With that, danger still exists in the area directly affected by the fire, which will remain closed through the winter. Signage is posted on site indicating which areas are open and which areas remain closed. And I would ask that, and staff would ask that you pay attention to which areas are closed. There's a reason they're closed, and we really don't want folks down in that area at this time. And we do have a couple action items. We have the appointment and oath of office for Deputy City Administrator.
We need a motion.
Well, we need a motion.
Do we need to have a name?
Just position, correct?
So it is the name. So this is similar to any other appointment where the mayor makes the request to appoint the officer and then the council ratifies that vote, just like you do for planning commission or any of the other appointed officers.
So see, you put it in a different section, I'm just messed
Yeah.
up. At least that's my excuse. So I need to ask for council confirmation
Yes.
for that?
Yes.
So council, I would ask for confirmation for the appointment of Mr. Wilson as the Deputy City Administrator.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, further discussion. Roll call, please.
Ziegler.
Aye.
Shove.
Aye.
Walker.
Aye.
Thorson.
Aye.
Malloy.
Aye.
Borders.
Aye.
Motion passes. We take the oath now, or should we do the second one and then do the oaths?
Whatever you want to do.
Let's do the second one and then do the oaths. So council would also like confirmation for the appointment of Mr. Field Harrington for Legal Service Director for the City of Post Falls.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, further discussion. Roll call, please.
Shove.
Aye.
Walker.
Aye.
Thorson.
Aye.
Malloy.
Aye.
Borders.
Aye.
Ziegler?
Shannon, you want to see if Nathan would like to weigh in on that one?
Aye.
You know, you should have said no just to be obstinate.
Not anymore.
Motion passes.
That was funny.
I don't think you've ever done that.
However you want to do it.
Do you solemnly swear
that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Idaho, and that you will faithfully discharge the duties of Deputy City Administrator and Legal Services Director of the City of Post Falls, Idaho, best according to your ability.
Thank you. Gentlemen, thank you for your service and what you did.
Congratulations.
Mayor, I have a question. Is there a secret handshake involved? Do they get
Can't tell you.
It wouldn't be a secret.
Wouldn't be a secret if you did it on camera.
Next section on the agenda tonight is citizens' issue, and this section of the agenda is reserved for citizens wishing to address the council regarding a city-related issue that is not on the agenda. Anyone wishes to speak, come forward. Seeing none. Now we're down to administrative staff reports, development progress.
All right, Bob Seal, Community Development Director. As I often do, when we've got a lot of stuff going on, I'd like to be able to come and just give you a short presentation of some of those items, as opposed to what I often do in the spring is more detailed in data and information. This one, it kind of came about because I wanted to be able to get some aerial photographs of the roundabout that was taking place up at Fennicus, and then all the stuff that's happening over on the west side. I know that a lot of you get questions about the different buildings that have been going up, and so this kind of maybe just adds an image and a face and a little bit of an update to what is happening out there. So again, I'm just focusing on a couple of areas. This area up here by Fennicus and Prairie, and then over here over on the west side of town. So I'm going to start with the section up by Prairie and Fennicus, Highway 41 area. Up there you've got the Kootenai Classical Academy and the Peak Fitness that are both under construction right now. Prairie Avenue and Fennicus Roundabout, that when this photograph was taken, it was not yet open. It has been opened, so you do get to go and drive around in circles if you want to. That's okay. And then just kind of indicating that, you know, it's it kind of shows the location of Foxtail Development and Hughes Family Farm in relation to that roundabout. And so if you haven't been up there yet, I believe that they started school today. The Kootenai Classical Academy has opened. I know that they had a successful open house last week, and they have received their authorization to open. So that's this building that you see here, and just for kind of orientation, this is looking west, so you've got Highway 41 out in this location over there, and this right here is the Peak's construction site. So this is where Peak was at when these photographs were taken. So Peak is at least underway. The sign on site indicates that they're aiming for a summer of '24 opening. I think at the rate they've been going, I think that's probably pretty accurate. A lot of the times you see these signs up and they are way off in terms of actual open times because they've been working so hard to get where they're at, but I think that's pretty accurate. And you can see here that this is looking south, so you can see the roundabout here. And then this is the land that is Foxtail Development down by Arcatera. As on this side, you've got the Hughes Family Farm. So once again, here's the Hughes on this side and Foxtail on this side with a nice shot of an aerial roundabout. Now, you also probably recognize that the Prairie is still closed, so that is in relation to the roundabout that's being constructed half mile down the road, or maybe a quarter mile, half mile, I believe, at Zoros and Prairie. So now we're gonna hop over to Riverbend. Riverbend's had a number of construction projects going on lately. Shabby Fabrics, Wildfire Defense, the Buzz Oats, and the Pine and Poppy were kind of the ones that are currently just finished construction or are nearing ending that construction. Figured I'd show you some of those. So this is the wildfire defense systems that is located. I can just show you on that map a little bit in that general area. These screenshots, just for a note, these screenshots come from the GIS website that we have that shows all the different construction projects and the different phases that they're in currently. So these ones are green, which shows that they've been approved, so they're likely under construction. Again, just kind of another shot from the wildfire defense, and you can see the Buzz Oats developments going up over here, and these are closer look at those Buzz Oats projects. Buzz Oats is an industrial developer out of the Sacramento area, and so they bought up a number of the parcels over in Riverbend. I believe the majority of the parcels in Riverbend are now sold and are tagged for some form of development. So these were the first 3 buildings that they put up, I believe, and each one is spec, so they are, have tenants or are looking for tenants. But they're a really solid industrial development company that owns millions of square feet of industrial buildings around the country. So, Pine and Poppy and Shabby Fabrics. Shabby Fabrics is kind of hidden in the back too. This is not one of their retail locations. That is where they do their manufacturing. And then Pine and Poppy, which is kind of an event rental space for weddings and such, is over near where the Tedder Center is. So that one's underway there. Jumping a little bit over further west, we're going to kind of follow the aerial flight path. Kind of went in a westerly direction. I think they kind of started here and just kind of kept flying with it. So you'll see it kind of the pictures kind of run this direction and then back to here, and I stop it there. But in those various areas, we've got Expo Mini Storage is at this star. Then we've got Douglas Expo, which is more some of the industrial, a couple of smaller 40,000 square foot buildings. Then you've got Amelia Apartments and the Apartment 26 that are in this area, followed by the industrial spec buildings, the large ones, Circle K, and then the different retail center over here. We got SWC, GISA, or I'm not sure how you pronounce that, GISA Credit Union, Newtex Hospital, the location for the Popeyes, and back at Circle K. And then this is the potential future Arrive location for it's another multifamily development that was slated for that area. We're not sure. We haven't seen permits on if they're coming in or not. But I took a picture, had a picture done of it just so come future, if if it does show up, you have a before and after. So, so here's the Expo Mini Storage. Followed by the Douglas Expo, more spec industrial buildings. This is again the Douglas Expo special. I believe they're about 40,000 square feet each. Followed by the Amelia Apartments that are majority of them for this phase have been completed. I think that there's a couple back here that have not received their COs yet. But some of them have begun to be occupied. Additionally, there are more slated on this side, which are begun construction, and I think that there's another phase on this side as well, too. So, you've got the industrial spec buildings. These are the large ones that you see when you're hitting that Beck interchange. The original plans, I'm pretty sure they're pretty close to that still. But this was 260,000 square feet. Approximately, and this one was 160,000 square feet approximately. Again, they were lined up as spec industrial, so they are in the process of filling those tenant spaces. There was a period where Amazon had applied for a tenant improvement to go into the rear building, but a change in some of their models had them pull it for the current time. So. And in this location here, right at the corner, you can kind of see Maverick over here in the back, but this is where the Circle K is intended to go, and they've been moving through that building permit process, and I believe they've received their permits, so just have not kicked off yet. And then we hop over to, this is, if you look in this lower area, this is where Maverick is right here. Just kind of give you an orientation. Here's Cisco, Walmart, and such right out there. So, and this is, again, these were taken just after the wildfire that happened on the hill in Camelin. I had tagged him to get some photos for me prior to that, but the wildfire he had to take some photographs of that area first, so that took priority. But if you go out there now, these are further along than what these images show. So you've got the Napa Auto Parts building that's under construction here. This is the SWC retail building, retail site, which it's got, I think it's got two retail units in here. Then you've got the Napa, and they have on their site plan is another building here as well that is, I believe, intended to be kind of another fast food type of drive-through type of place. You can see back here in the corner the location of the Nutex Hospital, and this is the building where GISA Credit Union is going in, and it's also, I believe, just part of a multi-tenant building. Give you another view of GISA here, Napa, and the Nutex Hospital in these locations. And this would be the location of that Popeyes, somewhere in this location, when Popeyes decides that they're gonna pull the trigger on that. They asked for a delay in pulling their permit today, so. Here's another view of Nutex, GISA, Napa, and this is the potential future site of that Arrive at Post Falls, which has apartments in the rear of the property and commercial development along the front, say front half, I believe it was originally approved for. So, and again, kind of looking at the final aerial views from this direction, Popeyes, Nutex, GISA. Anyways, that's where it's kind of out there.
It's good information, Bob. Thanks. Any questions, Bob? Appreciate it. Yeah, it's good info. Next item on the agenda is the completion of the WRF Outfall Replacement Project Summary. Andrew.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Andrew Arbini, Projects Division Manager. Keeping with the wastewater theme this evening, have a recap of the water reclamation facility outfall replacement project. You've heard about this over the last year or so. Tonight is a summary of that project from start to finish, and some of the challenges and ultimately the successful completion of the project. So this is also something new that I am trying with the completion of projects, doing a staff report and providing some sort of summary. So at the end of the presentation, any questions or feedback or comments are greatly appreciated, whatever might be helpful. So to give a little bit of background on the project, we actually started the outfall replacement design in 2018. We utilized the construction manager general contractor method. So kind of a big deal in that this was the first project for the city that we've utilized this method. So a bit of a learning process for us and our engineer and the project team, really. The project was to replace the water reclamation facility outfall, WRF. Originally, this was installed in 1984. So up until this last February, we were utilizing that 1984 pipeline, 12-inch size pipe. What we've installed is an increase to 30-inch. In the process of increasing the pipe size to add capacity, it also improves the mixing in the Spokane River. And then with the design, so when we entered into the CMGC contract, we also included a design of a future reuse pipeline to serve the community forest south of the river. Construction of the project commenced in 2021, completed this last February. So this graphic, I think, does a really good job in illustrating the CMGC method. And to contrast this to the design bid build, which is typical for most of our projects, design bid build, you work with an engineer, come up with a design plan, go out and bid, and then the contractor takes that design and builds it. With the CMGC, this afforded us the opportunity to bring that CMGC, that construction manager / general contractor, they wear the same hats. They come in at the pre-design phase. So that brought that company in early on, and they have feedback and input in the actual design. So they are steering some of the design and working with our design engineer, and then the whole project team is working together to develop this design. So some considerations in selecting this. There's a lot up here on the screen, but to distill this down, it really, going back to what I just said, it allowed us to bring that contractor in early on, and they at that point have a level of commitment and engagement into the project. So they are inputting how they would design or how they would construct the project. Taking that design, we were able to move that into construction. It helped with the permitting. What we heard from a lot of outside agencies, that they were willing to review the project design, but they wanted to do that one time and not have different iterations and different designs. So that really narrowed down to the CMGC method, and that this would be a good fit. So this is a copy of one of 4 pages of the risk matrix that was developed by the project team. We identified all the potential risks, the probability, and then assigned cost to that. The contractor, CMGC, then took that and refined that further. In developing the GMP, which is the guaranteed maximum price, that was our contract with McMillan Jacobs, who was a contractor for this project. They included the elements of risk into their GMP. So there was a guaranteed maximum price that included about $500,000 of construction contingency. This is different than a design bid build in that it gave the contractor the ability to utilize that $500,000 as they see fit at their discretion based on the items listed in the risk matrix. So as you are aware, we did run into some challenges in the project. At the start of the project, again, this was 2021, we started to see impacts of the supply chain. So we did experience material lead time issues. Those were mitigated through the use of some of that contingency. Between the city and the CMGC, we agreed to alternative materials, and there were some cost components in that, but it allowed the project to stay on track at that point. Towards the completion of the project, once infrastructure was installed, CMGC had difficulty in achieving a successful test, final acceptance, essentially, of the entire pipeline. So going back to that CMGC structure, the at-risk component, CMGC is responsible in delivering an acceptable product. At their risk, they elected at their first attempt to remediate the problem with a CIPP liner. So that was a cured-in-place plastic liner. Unfortunately, that was unsuccessful. Ultimately, through additional iterations, the CMGC elected to remove and replace that section of pipe, which is focused on the hillside, one of the most difficult parts of the project. Following the reinstallation of the pipeline, we did achieve a passing pressure test, and pipeline is in use, has been in use since February. Final note on this, we did finalize the project through a change order that was brought to council that addressed the 1.5 years of time that we went beyond the project completion, the original contract completion date. And it also addressed the GMP. So the city received a reduction to the GMP through this. And I have a budget slide that will summarize all of this here in a couple more slides. I want to go through the pictures. So this was at the start of the project. This was in 2021, around July, August timeframe. Right when the contractor mowed to the site, you can see the crane. We had a large crane on site for about a month while they did the in-water work. Here's a picture of that in-water work on the left. You can see the excavator down along the shoreline. They had to build a cofferdam. This is stuff that I think is pretty neat, but just pointing out a few highlights here. The diffusers are on the right, so those are the two ports that discharge the effluent from the WRF. That's an upgrade to the single port that we were using previously. Photos of hillside work. So on the left, you can see fairly confined space. It was a bit of a challenge to work in such close quarters. On the right, installation of the pipeline coming up the hillside. And these two photos, this was taken around February last year, right when they completed. In fact, worked into the night in that photo on the left to finish the tie-in. They had just switched over to the new pipeline, and then you can see the final grade and restoration looking much better than it was during construction. So quick summary of the whole project. I won't go through each one, but you can see maybe the main focus there being McMillan and the GMP. The original GMP was about $3 million. That reduction in the GMP through that negotiated closeout of the project resulted in a GMP of 2.7, so about a difference of $4 million. Total project cost is around $3.5 million. So the project, as I mentioned, is closed out. We finalized the outfall replacement. I mentioned we designed a reuse pipeline and have separated that. We separated that prior to construction of the outfall, really viewed that as a separate project. That is a bid-ready project dependent on the community development forest, or development of the community forest as that continues to progress. So that will drive the need for a reuse pipeline to the south side of the river. So, that is all that I had. I was hoping to provide an update, and hopefully that gives some information on what we've been doing the last couple of years, and excited to have this project finalized.
I tell you, after all that we've been going through with the wastewater plant and all the improvements that are necessary and the expansion that's necessary, it's great to see a project completed. So thanks for sticking with it and getting it done. Any comments or questions?
No.
Looks great.
Thanks, Andrew. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is mayor and council comments, and I just remind everybody school's back in session. I was driving through school zones today, and the kids are out, the parents are out in their cars, the traffic is heavy. Please drive slow. Every year we get requests for law enforcement to enforce speed limits and people speeding through school zones, and so again, remember these are oftentimes little kids, but oftentimes big kids that don't pay a lot of attention and drive safely. Let's keep all of our kids safe this year. Council comments. Carrie.
Most people didn't know this. It's the first day of school, but it's also Bring Your Daughter to Work Day. So I'd like to welcome my daughter, Sarah Polk, here to the Post Falls City Council meeting. Post Falls High School class of 95. Go Trojans.
94.
He's old. Welcome. Any other comments? We do not need an executive session tonight. Next motion is?
Adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.